Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Welcome, one and all, to the Hungaroring. Finally, we're back at a circuit that I might actually have a chance of knowing before we go into the qualifying. The BMW M135i Cup, powered by VRRC, is the championship in question. We are at the penultimate round of the season, but we'll get to the calendar in a minute. My name is Jack Oliphant. I will proudly be your host for this evening. I've got Rich Hayden doing the broadcast, and we'll pop up with interesting and entertaining anecdotes and pieces of information throughout the evening, I am sure. I said we're at the penultimate round. We got Silverstone to come. That will be where we finish this brilliant series. But before that, we were at Portimao last week, Oschersleben, Spa, Assen, Mugello, and Zolder, working all the way back to week 1. It's weird to think that it was all the way back on May the 1st. I think we even had to not have one of these rounds broadcasted. I can't even remember which one, to be honest. It feels like the championship's been going quite some time, yet the back end feels like it's absolutely snapped away from us in an instant, and that's because of an absolutely brilliant championship battle that we got coming up, but we'll get to that in a minute's time. In fact, actually, I can tell you a little bit more before we talk about this championship. Rich Hayden is going to talk about the next championship. Rich, take it away.
Thanks very much, mate. Yeah, so I'm really pleased to say that the next championship that we've got coming up on Wednesday nights is on the starts on the 10th of July. The Cupra Cup in the 2024 version of the Cupra TCR car. We did a practice race on this this Monday night just gone. The car's epic, and everybody really enjoyed it. So really looking forward to that. Some different circuits on there as well. I think I mentioned last week we're going to try a few different ones as well. There's some old favourites as well. And we are up to 29 entries at the moment, Jack.
Is that a sellout?
Almost. I think I'm going to take it to 30, and I think I've got one person that's actually probably going to sign up in the next day or so. So a full 30 car grid for Cupra.
Is there many newbies? Is there any newcomers, or is it quite a lot of the old guard?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a few new people, yes, but majority of them are the old guard. But I think we've got about 5 new people coming on board. Andy Dorman's coming back. He's not been with us for a while, so quite looking forward to Andy coming back. And yeah, a couple of new people on top of that. Let me just have a quick look at the entries, and I'll.
Eric Axelson's coming back, isn't he?
He is, yes, very
That's an exciting one for everybody. He'll be a front runner for sure, obviously, amongst the others.
Yeah, I'm going to run through it. So we've got Andy Carroll, Paul Laramie, Josh Martin, Nathan Smith, Mark Stokes, John Jones, Craig Curtis, Kenny Press, Sam Milner. Alok is coming back. It's good to have him. Chris Blakey, Eric obviously is back. Olivia's coming back into the next championship. Matt Smith, Lee Pearce is staying on with us. Scott Bugner's back again. Jack Smith, Oliver Gibson, Sam Walton, Darren Butler's back. Lewis Stannard is a newbie. Adam Lyall, Thomas Potter, Joel Lask, Brad Smith, Ben Smith, Johnny Ogden's back, and then we've got Troy King and Andy Dorman. So quite a good list there. Yeah, really looking forward to it.
I was going to say, the best thing about that for me is not only will you have 5 or 6 drivers fighting right in the front for the championship and the prizes, it will also be very difficult to even get inside the top 10, actually, because there's lots of sort of what I would consider midfield runners. There's nobody there that I can hear that you'd think, oh, they're just going to be cooling around the back. So it should be very competitive, whichever way you look. Right, that is the Cupra Leon Cup. Let's think about a little bit more on the, well, it's still a hatchback touring car, but it's the rear-wheel drive BMW 135, and we were at the Autodromo Internazionale. Oh, I can't say it. It's Portimao. It's Portimao, isn't it? Josh Martin came out on top. He had a 4th and a 2nd place. And to be honest, actually, it just skipped my mind that actually he did so well. Fair play to Josh Martin. It's nice to catch up with him after race 1 as well. Chris Blakey came home in 2nd place, and Ben Smith took home an awful lot of points, which significantly helped his championship standings, actually. We can go to the championship now. And you may well see a familiar name that I've just mentioned right at the top of the order. It is Ben Smith on 193 points. And actually, Oliver Gibson on 188 is actually 2 less than what I had on my screen. So I don't know if there's been a penalty or been a fix. Rich, was there a penalty involved with Oliver Gibson?
Yeah, there was a penalty, yeah.
There we go then. So he's on 188 points. Doesn't affect him too much, but 2 points could be the difference between the championship at the end of the 8 weeks. There's now 5 points between first and second. Then you've got Jack Smith slightly further back, but has lost a lot of weight, and therefore he can actually go a little bit faster. He said it's like night and day, 50 kilograms compared to 40. It feels like he's got no weight at all on the car, which is a bit of an ominous sight and sound, I suppose, for the other drivers. Craig Curtis, who looks very fast here at the Hungaroring, is in 4th place, and only 1 point back now is Josh Martin. And as I said, he didn't look very quick here at the Hungaroring, and then all of a sudden, as I literally said it out loud before the broadcast, I was halfway through my sentence saying it to Rich. He went and put it on 1st place in practice. It's going to be a big night for Josh Martin, potentially, and Craig Curtis. Scott Bugner in 6th, and you can see all the way down to Thomas Potter in 10th place, who we did actually end up having a chat to last week as he got a pole position. Paul Laramie down to Kenny Press is the 2nd lot of the championship table. Some protagonists in there that we've seen a lot of. Lee Piercy, he's nearly captured our screen for the majority of this BMW Cup, but he's never quite had the results to go hand in hand with the entertainment factor that he's had. Whether he be binned off or whether he's binning other people, he is still always on our screen, and I'm waiting for the day where his racecraft just gets a little bit better in the sim, and we can actually start seeing him get justified podiums. The 3rd lot is about to come on your screen as well, I'm sure, and that'll round off, there you go, all the way down to Stuart Henderson, as Matt Smith ended up retiring to take 1 less Smith away from the championship, which is a bit of a relief for me, to be honest. Right, the Hungaroring, back to the F1 circuits. It's a circuit you'll probably be relatively familiar with, but it's going to be a hot lap in the hands of, I'm going to guess, Andy Carroll, Rich?
You got it right.
I got it right. Fantastic. Let's watch Andy Carroll wrestle his BMW around the Hungaroring. Thank you very much to Andy Carroll, giving us a good view and onboard of the Hungaroring behind one of these BMWs. I have to say, it's nice to see the old track back as well. We haven't been here for a very long time. I actually genuinely can't remember if we've ever been here as VRRC.
Somebody asked me that yesterday, actually. We have been here, I just can't remember what it was.
No, I can't remember. It's a track I've driven a lot, having raced on the F1 games for many years, but never something that I can remember particularly commentating on, apart from I can remember shouting about Jordan Brennan, I think, into like the sixth corner, the one where you launch yourself over the blind left-hand press. But
must have been a TCR race or something then, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it was back about maybe 2 years ago. It's been a long time since we've been doing this, actually.
Yeah.
Joel Lask on pole position, only by 0.025 seconds, with 8 minutes left to go. It probably means we've basically just seen the first cycle of runs. We're probably coming to the end of the tyre life, and then all of a sudden they'll strap some new boots on and hopefully start going for even faster lap times. Now, Rich was saying to me before the broadcast that a couple of people have had quiet words in their ear about track limit, which around the Hungaroring there is potential for, let's say, abusing the track limits. We've just seen the chicane there as one of them if you cut the inside completely, and if you go on the green Astro on the outside, it doesn't really upset the car too much, but it is track limits. So we need to make sure that. Oh, carry on, Rich. Have you, where are we looking?
The white line's the edge of the track, and that's extended by that red and white curb. You can just see there. What we've had is a couple of drivers just going a little bit wider. You can just see a little bit of green outside the red and white curb, and using that as well. So I've just reminded them that that is not part of the track. Yeah, there we go. You see the AstroTurf just there on the outside of the curb. So so they're all well aware of the track limits.
Yes, and anybody who's using or abusing those track limits will have the wrath of a Monday night debrief to look forward to, I'm sure, and potential deductions as well, because we don't have live stewarding during qualifying, but what we do is post-race qualifying, so even if post-race stewarding, sorry. So if somebody has abused track limits in qualifying and that's earned them first position, and all of a sudden after the 2 races have been done and a couple of days later we find that they've been using track limits and abusing them, then an appropriate amount of places can be removed from them over the course of the evening. So
keeping it all fair and square.
Yeah, you can't hide from it, can you? The replays will be coming up strong, and well, there's no arguing against the video replay. So
you'd think there wasn't.
No, people do put up a
but
fight,
we're talking about racing drivers here, Jack.
Yeah, I never put up a fight against video replays, I have to say. But that's
Josh Martin on 2 greens.
He is. I wasn't going fast enough to get any track limits. That's potentially why. Thomas Potter is also on a green sector. He's in 6th place at the moment. Josh Martin in 9th. Now, Josh did only put 1 good lap time in that I saw. He went from 16th up to 1st. So don't get me wrong. It was a very good lap time, but it wasn't exactly consistency. But it is nice to see Josh, who's got a little bit faster. He's not as washed as he used to be, as Dave in the YouTube chat would probably claim. Thomas Potter on only 1 green sector, but there's a couple of improvements. I mentioned that it might be a big night for Craig Curtis as Chris Blakey puts in a purple sector 2. We're going to watch Josh Martin come round. He's got a lot of time to find if he wants to go anywhere near pole position, but I think he's going to find maybe about half a second, which will put him well within. No, he didn't quite find it, actually. He probably did find half a second, but it only moved himself up 2 positions. So yeah, he found 4/10 of a second in the end, but the top 6 or 7 are just, well, top 8 now, actually, with Josh Martin in 8th. Are really just that much further ahead than the rest of the field. Adam Lyall back. There's a big gap between 9th and 8th place. We are looking at Chris Blakey, though, and for good reason. It's because he has got that purple sector 2. Thomas Potter went off in sector 3, so his lap time this time around won't count. But what can Chris do? Apart from that sector 2, he hasn't really got anything in the locker. Let's see what he can do. No, he stays in 7th place. I didn't think he really had much about the rest of the lap. His 4th sector was not bad. Andy Carroll is 2 green sectors. He's in 10th place as it stands. Sector 2 and sector 3 have been strong. His sector 1 wasn't fast by any means, but it wasn't disastrous. He may well be a 10th or 2 up, but he's not going to really trouble the likes of Josh Martin. I think he might pit Adam Lyall. No, he stays in 10th place. It's not really anywhere near it. To be fair, no one else seems to be improving at the moment with nearly less than 5 minutes to go.
It's a really tricky track. There's kind of, to get the optimum time. A little bit of contact there.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, to get the optimum time, there's only really one line, and if you stray off that in one corner, there's so many corners after it that you're just losing time for the next 2 or 3 corners. So you have to be hyper accurate here to get a good time out of the track.
Yeah, especially what I imagine is probably sector 2 or 3. Those sort of, I think that sort of section of the track that you're talking about, isn't it? Where there is only one line. It's the line. It's the current portion of the track that Chris Blakey is currently on. Now, Chris was green in sector 1. His sector 2 wasn't anything to write home about. So this is obviously sector 3 that he's currently operating. And Craig Curtis has gone green in sector 2 and 3. And considering that's the hardest part of the track, means he could be on for a decent time. Chris Blakey looks about 3 tenths up. Craig Curtis looks only maybe about a 10th up. So we can see Chris Blakey move maybe towards actually the really sharp end of the stick. Craig Curtis is currently in 3rd place. He crosses the line, stays in 3rd, but what's Chris Blakey got in the locker? Coming up to the final corner now, is 2.5 tenths to pole position. It's so tight towards the top end, which for a nearly 2-minute lap is extremely exciting. That's 7th to 1st place. You could separate them by a blink of an eye, and half a blink of an eye is what Chris Blakey improves by, because he goes up to 4th place. He gained 2 tenths of a second, but he didn't gain quite enough to get onto that front row. He's in the 4th place, though, pretty decent.
Can we just highlight this? It's less than 0.1 of a second for the first 7 places.
For the first 7 places?
Yeah.
It's, yeah, very close. Yeah, you're right, yeah. But
it's it's just over 0.1 of a second for the first 7 places.
Yeah, it's mad, crazy, isn't it? I mean, that's the sort of, whenever I commentate a Brands Hatch, it's one of my favourite sort of things to do is to play the sort of game of how many cars can be fit within 2 tenths of a second. Because Brands Hatch Indy, you can fit nearly 13 cars or something like that. That's because it's a 50-second lap or whatever it could be, depending on what car you're in. But here, in a BMW M135i, at Hungaroring, a 2-minute lap bordering on 1 minute 54. You wouldn't expect them to be anywhere near that. To be honest with you, probably expect the top 10 to be maybe within a second, but not the top 7 within 0.2. Yeah. Madness. As Jack Smith.
It just shows the quality, doesn't it? Really, I'm really impressed with him.
Yeah, and keep in mind that most of these guys are going to be back for the Cooper and Leon Cup as well. Joel Lask, I was about to get excited about because he went green sector 1, but then he screwed up sector 2 when he got
Jack's green sector 1.
Jack Smith though is green sector 1. Yeah, he's a driver, and he's gone off the circuit in sector 2, just like Joel Lask has. Ben Smith has gone green sector 2. Now all he needs is basically any improvement whatsoever. Any improvement that you can give to Ben Smith will put him on pole position. At the moment, he's not gone track limits. He's got a green sector to his name. The rest of it isn't terrible. It's not fastest, but it's not terrible. Chris Blakey's just gone purple sector 4, which means his lap is done. So he's stuck in the 4th place at the moment, just like he was a couple of laps ago. Well, only 1 lap ago, actually. So not an improvement, but just goes to show there is still time out there. And with, less than a minute to go.
I think Ben's setting up a lap here, look.
If Ben Smith sets up a lap, I'll be fairly impressed. Really he was already on a pretty quick one, but he's actually dropped about a second in this sector 4 to, you're right, Rich, I imagine, set up a lap. He gets a really nice exit out of the final corner, and we could be seeing a potential push for pole position. Joel Lask didn't even bother with the rest of his lap. He might be setting one up as well.
Ben was 0.1 up by the end of the start-finish straight from that setup, so...
Joel Lask is also about 0.1 or 0.2 up as well, so we could see an extension of pole position, but we could see a fair few people go for it. Chris Blakey's on a green sector 1. Andy Carroll finished that lap pretty strong as well, meaning that he's split himself into 8th position, so the top 9 separated by less than half a second now. Goes to show anybody can win on this grid as Chris Blakey goes purple sector 2. Josh Martin's gone green sector 2, but in sector 1 isn't really anything to write home about. He's 6 tenths of a second off through sector 1, so the rest of his lap won't bother. Is that a track limits, Chris? Sorry, Rich.
It looked like it. We'll have to have a look.
Yeah, so it's Chris Blakey, who are on board with, pushes the limits of the rules, shall we say. Some drivers quoted to be saying that some rules are made to be broken. It wasn't Chris Blakey, I won't reveal who it was, but it does mean that we could see some people maybe trying to fudge the system, and it's a computer. You can't fudge the system. Chris Blakey, though, he didn't get a off track on the computer, but we will be running our own stewarding system after the race. Chris Blakey goes on to pole position by 0.035 of a second at the moment. On track, that's what we're going with. So pole position for Chris Blakey after putting in a purple sector 2. No one else apart from Andy Carroll has put in purple sectors, as Jack Smith is in 5th place as it stands. Green sector 2, maybe he's got a 10th of a second in the locker if he can nail this final corner. Everybody else coming into the pit lane. Jack Smith wants to try and finish this lap because it's not a terrible lap. It's nothing to write home about apart from that 4th sector. A purple 4th sector for Jack Smith. He absolutely nailed the final corner, and look at the symmetry there. It was 0.025 seconds between Ben Smith and Joel Lask, less than a lap ago. Now the gap between pole position is still 0.025 seconds, but it's between Chris Blakey and Jack Smith. The top 5 separated by less than a 10th of a second. We said we've seen an extension of pole position, and we have done. We'll chat to the top 3 after this short break. Right then, a very excited commentary box that we've got here, virtual commentary box, I'd say, because they've only just found out how close it actually was from pole down to 3rd position. So Joel Lask in 3rd, you missed out, but I mean only by 0.03. Does that hurt, or are you quite happy?
No, I'm quite happy with that, to be fair. The pace hasn't been there in terms of BMs for me very recently. And I knew that time was going to get beat. The practice times were quicker. I thought maybe it might just stand, but hey, it is what it is. No, I'm happy with that.
Are you sort of looking forward to fighting with the top lads of Chris and Jack, but obviously the drivers that we don't have in this interview box as well are Ben Smith and Craig Curtis? I mean, you're all separated by about 0.05 seconds or something ridiculous like that. Are you anticipating that although you're 3rd, you could end up coming 1st or 5th at this rate, or 7th, to be honest? It's a bit mad out there.
I'd say a pole's on the cards. I think I've got good race pace, but we'll have to see how the race pans out. There's some long laps. It's very easy to mess up, and very easy to cut the track as well. So yeah, I suppose we'll see. But pole is on the cards. That's what we're going for.
Any interesting strategy that you're gonna pull out here for us, or and what do you think the consistency of race pace looks like?
I think, to be honest, it's going to be send it and hope for the best, but in usual fashion. Yep. But in terms of race pace, I think it's just going to be protecting the tyres, especially those with high ballast. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too, Joel. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Just Phoenix Sim Racing as always, for helping me out and keeping me racing more than anything. So yeah, and a big shout out to VRRC for obviously putting this on. It's great fun.
Oh,
Looking forward to seeing how you get on, Joel. Good luck with the race.
Cheers, appreciate it.
Right then, next up is Jack Smith, and well, you've lost 10 kilos. Feels like you've been on a diet there, Jack, and your pace has all of a sudden returned, hasn't it? I bet you feel a bit relieved after that one.
Yeah, helps if I actually practice as well. But yeah, I've got a feel for this track now, so I'm there. But everyone's times are so close, even on such a long lap. So I think it just shows the level everyone's at now. It's just we're fighting for not even a tenth anymore. We're fighting for hundredths. So it's the level of the field's gone up massively. But yeah, it should be an interesting race. P2 on the grid, so I've got technically a clear run ahead of me, but we need to get a launch first, so we'll have to see what I can do. And obviously I've got Joel behind me, who's looking to return a favour, so I'm sure he won't, but yeah,
well,
we'll see what happens. We never know, but yeah, we'll see
Joel
what happens.
hasn't been afraid of getting it dicey for championships, as we've seen in previous seasons, no matter whether it's his teammates or anybody, to be honest. You obviously came back, Jack, and it's safe to say that it's a bit of a dominating performance. Whenever you turned up to the grid, it's been a bit of a walkover. But all of a sudden this season, we've seen it become a lot more competitive. Is that because the rest of the field pushed up, or the ballast system worked a little bit better to slow you down, and how much are you relishing that new competition?
I think it's really strange how the pace has gone up since my masterclass started, but no, yeah, it's really I'm really enjoying the really close fields. And I like, because you can do a quali lap and it could be the best lap of your life and you'll still be P5, and then you'd be like, where is it? And you look at the times and it's like there's nothing in it. So if you just like did that one corner just a little bit better, found like 200s, you would have gone up 3 positions. So yeah, but that's where the racing gets really good, and you know, like battles and stuff with this kind of pace, it's going to be pretty good to watch. So I'm just hoping that this track can perform Assen levels of racecraft around there. So
I think we're all hoping for that, to be honest, as well. And let's not forget, it's not just the top 3. You've got the likes of, well, your brother Ollie Gibson as well in 6th place. I mean, he was only probably, I don't have the stats actually in front of me now, but I think he was only about 10th behind you, and therefore about a 10th and a half behind pole position. I mean, if you get on track, is there any team orders? Is he coming into the penultimate couple of rounds? Because he's in 2nd place in the championship. But you're
we don't have comms during the race, so we just sort of do what we think's best in the moment, really. So maybe I'll flash my lights at him or something. But yeah, we don't speak to each other during the race just because it gets a little bit distracting. So there won't be any team orders. It'll just be what happens really. So yeah, there's no. I don't really see the point in team orders anyway. You're racing for a championship. It doesn't really matter what team you're in, really. So yeah. Yeah,
can I just interject something? I've just noticed something. You need to give a message back to the grid when you go back in there. The race is set at 30 minutes. I don't know how that's happened.
No, it says 25 on mine.
Oh, it says 25. Sorry, it's on my screen. Don't panic. Don't panic.
I'm gonna say I've just fueled up for 25.
Yeah, it's all right. It's still got the countdown on it as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, move on.
Yes. Well, anyway, you haven't got comms. You're not going to talk to each other during the race or the championship, and you know, if you get it horrendously wrong, you might not talk to each other for a while afterwards either. But good luck for the race, Jack. And is there anything that you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, Mum, Lee, all the sponsors, Hop Cabin, Sherburn, I can't even remember them all. Hop Cabin, Sherburn Rubber, Simon Ford Motor Services, obviously DK Power, shout out to Bob, and Brian as well. I know he's watching, so thank you guys.
So many people do, so many shout outs. We should have done this ages ago. Good luck, Jack Smith, and you never know, we'll probably end up talking to you at some point during the rest of this evening.
Cheers, Jack.
Right, and finally, it's our pole position, Chris Blakey. Now, let's get the obvious out of the way, Chris. 1, congratulations on pole position. 2, are you nervous that might get taken away from you?
Kind of, maybe, possibly, maybe. Yeah, I was on for a low 2 anyway, and I was confident, and I was setting. It was everything was saying purple, so I was like, oh, and then just that little drift, just that little tiny. It probably slowed me down, Rich, anyway. So
that's what you want to say, isn't it? Oh no, the game punished me anyway. It slowed me down.
Yes.
I mean, the difference is between 1st and 4th position, realistically, isn't it? You probably gained about 0.07 seconds or something over the course of the lap. So even if you get demoted down to 4th, realistically, it looks like it's going to be a real exciting evening and potentially a big one for you in terms of the championship.
Yes, it's going to be a very close race. I'm looking forward to this. It should be good. Bit of pressure starting on pole, but it's especially with Joel behind me and Jack alongside me. Just got to make sure we try and get a good start. I haven't got much ballast, so fingers crossed we'll just get a good start and then sit on the apex and see where we go.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. You started towards the sharp. Well, you have started towards the sharp end quite a lot recently, and you're starting to fight right at the front, aren't you? So, are you feeling like you're sort of bedding into sort of racing for championships and racing for top honours?
Yeah, getting there. It's nice to be able to compete competitively with people who are also of a kind of similar skill and good driving standards. It's really good fun to compete with, and especially racing in the real. I'm competing for race wins in the real as well. So it's kind of the pressure's there on both sides, and it's pretty similar.
Do you find, very quickly, because I know we're going to go in 90 seconds, do you find the sim is harder than the real life?
Yes.
Yeah, I find that as well. It's weird,
yes.
Isn't it? Everybody expects it to be really good, and it's so much harder.
All the other BMW guys have said that who joined us, like Lee and Dave. It's Paul. The real cars are a lot easier to drive than sim because there's just so much more feedback, especially with rear-wheel drive cars, that you can feel the reel go before you feel it through the wheel. So it's a very different thing to learn, but once you get the hang of it, it's good fun.
It is good fun. Chris, I'd like to ask you to give a shout out, but you only got a minute left to go, so I'm actually going to let you go and hope that we can get some shout outs from you a little later on. Is that all right?
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Wicked. Congratulations on the pole position, Chris Blakey. Right, we are about, as I said, 90, well, actually, no, less, 50 seconds now away from race number 1 with Chris Blakey on pole position, Jack Smith, and then Joel Lask. Although Joel Lask, I don't think is in the right position at the moment. Oh, he is on the screen, that's all right. He is actually physically there. It's just on my timing screen on my left. It's on my left. It's a little bit different. So with a fair few drivers also flirting in the mix with the likes of Ben Smith just outside in 4th position, obviously championship leader Craig Curtis. Could be a big evening for him. Oliver Gibson. In fact, this could be a massive evening for a lot of drivers. We're either going to sort of whittle the championship down to 2 or 3, or we're going to open it well up to about 7 drivers. And I think I'm very excited and hopeful, as many people at home probably will be, to open it up. So there's more opportunities for out there champions, and we can go into Silverstone with some really unpredictable storylines. Right. The lights are coming on. Hopefully. Soon. Come on, lights. You can do it. There we go. Lights are coming on. Engine notes are rising. I have to get my catchphrase in because we are racing here at the VRRC at Hungaroring. And Chris Blakey gets an absolutely electric start off the line. I don't think there was anything jumping in there at all. I think it was just really good traction. The rest of them behind look to go 4 wide into turn number 1 with Jack Smith on the inside, but he gives up the position as Joel Lask squeezes his way through. Craig Curtis looks around the outside. He's not going to receive any damage out there. It's a wide runoff, but he's not also going to receive any favours for being able to rejoin onto the track. He'll be on the inside of Joel Lask as he goes into turn number 3. Chris Blakey can take a massively wide entry to optimise that exit, and he can run away with this a little bit as the top 2 of the top 3 fight it out and ends up hitting each other off as well, with Joel Lask staying on the circuit, Craig Curtis being forced out wide. A bit of a hung out to dry sort of moment. Not really anticipating too many people surviving a lunge going through turn 5, but we all seem to manage to get away through it. In fact, actually, fairly impressed we've managed to survive the first 3 or 4 corners. To be honest, I thought that first corner especially, we were going to have some kind of massive melee, but when the qualifying time's this close, you are hoping that people can just bed into the evening and not take each other off, because you never know what could happen later on. Joel Lask didn't deliver on his promise to end up sending it. Well, he actually did send it on Jack Smith, to be fair, but it's more the fact that Jack Smith fell backwards and fell backwards hard, because he's now behind Ben Smith, who's currently on your screen. It looks like, oh, we have a drive. No, it's John Jones in the timing tower on the left-hand side. Don't worry, no one else fallen off just yet, but a few drivers have definitely slowed down. It probably means they've maybe had a bit of an off, maybe had a bit of a coming together. Lee Piercy, Paul Laramie, and Olivia down towards the bottom end, as we do see the drivers almost completing one full lap, and the biggest mover and shaker out of them all is Jack Smith, falling well down the order into 6th position. Or he might well be 5th, actually. I can't quite know whether I should trust the timing tower unless it has led me astray before. I think he is in
5th, yeah, he's in 5th.
5th position, which means he is just ahead of Oliver Gibson. But for how much longer? Because Oliver Gibson at the first opportunity has hit the hybrid to try and lunge his brother into turn 1. Elaine Gibson in the YouTube chat will be hiding behind her margarita before too long, I imagine, and the sofa and everything else. So I'd rather, to be honest, Elaine, just leave the room at this point and just listen to the commentary. We'll let you know what's going on. Chris Blakey has got Joel Lask really aggressively hooked up behind him, and as we have the hybrid now in use, things could start to get a little bit tasty. It's interesting to see where they're going to use the hybrid. The obvious position is obviously on the start-finish strip. I'd be interested to know if anybody actually uses it getting further into the race on that run-up to turn 5.
Yeah,
what do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's one clear place, which is the start-finish straight, but actually coming out of T3, there's a nice run up the hill that goes into a sharp left, so they could use it there. Other than that, I don't really think there's many places that they could use it.
Yeah, that kink on the left actually is T4, you're right. Not T5, I've been saying it's T5 all night, but it's not. So, I would imagine there's that opportunity, but again, you don't really want to lunge anybody into that one because you'll end up probably skipping over the apex, probably end up hitting them because the grip escapes you, especially if you're going too fast. So, turn 1 could be the majority of where we see these race moves. Joel Lask trying to nudge and encourage Chris Blakey to go wide, and Chris Blakey, well, opens the door up, to be honest. He didn't need to go that wide into the final corner. He knew Joel Lask was there. He knew that he was close enough to make some kind of move, and unfortunately for Chris Blakey, he could end up losing a couple of positions as Craig Curtis leaves the door slightly open for Ben Smith as well, but it wasn't to be. I wonder if Chris Blakey was trying to play the longer game and try and get into the slipstream to use a hybrid on Joel Lask. If he did, that's a fool's run, because he's now under attack from Craig Curtis. And it looks like we could see the race leader go from 1st down to 3rd within the space of 2 or 3 corners. And going through the first corner now, Chris Blakey's hooked up on the outside. Craig Curtis spent a lot of time in that position of the track on the opening lap, but it's going to be too wide going into turn 3. Turn 2. I don't know why I keep thinking that's turn 3. Turn 2, and it's a sideways moment, big sideways moment for our it's not former race leader. Craig Curtis goes round. Chris Blakey stays facing the correct direction, but I think actually, to be fair to Craig Curtis, he's still facing the right way, but he has ruined his run through there. Not entirely sure what happened. Don't know if there's a little touch of contact. They came out of the trees, and a couple of drivers were maybe out of shape, shall we say. So there'll be reviews on Monday, I imagine, about that one, but at the moment it's still Joel Lask who leads. He says the race pace may not be all there. He'll be imagining there'll be a lot of tyre saving through this race. I don't know how badly the tyres are going to churn up. It is quite a heavy load, especially with a lot of drivers who are on a lot of ballast. It's a lot to put through the tyres laterally as they go through this complex of corners, especially. Sort of the sector 3 area where we mentioned earlier, you can't really run wide. You will get punished on it. There is only one line, and realistically, there's a lot of, as I said, sort of medium speed corners through there, one after another, which really heat the tyres up, and then they're pretty much shot for the rest of the lap. So it can be quite interesting to see if we get anybody who's sort of conserving those tyres and then pushes on strong towards the end of the race.
Yeah, I think on Craig, I was watching at the time. I didn't see any contact. However, the angle wasn't great. It may have been just excessive torque demand. Yeah,
putting his foot down too heavily.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying, isn't it? Yeah, happy right foot, unfortunately.
That's the engineer's way of saying spinning the rears up.
Yeah, effectively, you're screwing it up, as most racing drivers probably end up saying it. And that's probably the PC answer as well. So it is a very frustrating thing. That is part and parcel of rear-wheel drive racing. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people actually prefer rear-wheel drive racing, because you do get this sort of slight unpredictability where you can get the back end out and the sort of car feels more alive. Unfortunately, that can come back to bite you in the rear. But I have to say, Rich, to be fair, I know you're sort of concentrating on the broadcast. but only you can really answer this in terms of the feedback that the drivers have. A lot of people like rear-wheel drive, but it does tend to be the front-wheel drive championship we keep coming back to.
Yeah, I like to swap them, rear-wheel drive, then front-wheel drive, just to keep everybody as happy as I can. But I have to say the sign-ups for this and for the Cupras next have been really good. So yeah, so you know we'll carry on with that mentality. What we'll do after Cupras, we're still deciding. Maybe something GT3, GT4, but let's see.
Well, to be fair, we've wet the whistle of a lot of people with the World Endurance League, haven't we? So that's become very popular, and even though it's spaced out so long in between rounds, it's still receiving major participation.
Still getting sign-ups for it now.
Exactly. So a lot of people seeing how good it can be. And I think, to be honest, I think we've hit on a bit of a winner with the race format, or the championship formats, actually, I should say, with these sort of major championships, and then just giving everybody a little bit of a break and an opportunity to experience something different, which is quite nice.
I think Chris is becoming a bit of a cork in a bottle here, isn't he?
Yeah, he seems to be going a little bit slow, and I think Joel Lask, on that previous lap, everybody actually improved apart from Joel Lask. The biggest mover and shaker in terms of lap time is actually Thomas Potter, which I know will please a lot of people in the YouTube chat. 1 minute 53.716 is the fastest lap of the race, just by about 0.01 second. But remember, 0.02 seconds is the difference between pole and second place. So we are talking about small margins here. But Thomas Potter with the fastest lap, which means 3 more points going in his direction. Currently sits in 10th in the championship. He'll take everything he can. And if he moves ahead of Andy Carroll and Craig Curtis, which it does look like he's got pace to, we could be seeing some really strong points coming Mr. Potter's way. And as I said, I know a lot of people in the YouTube chat will be pleased to see him on screen, but you can understand why we have to focus a little bit further forward, just like we were with Thomas a week ago when he didn't quite get the race win. Qualifying pole position, and we like to focus at the closest battles on the circuit, and the higher up get the slight priority, as you can imagine, because that's where the championship are won and lost, and it also is supposed to be where the best and cleanest racing is. Now that isn't always the case, but it does tend to be a bit of a rule of thumb with broadcasting sport. So as we see Jack Smith on the back of Chris Blakey, and potentially going for a race move. Oh, that's a late lunge. He's just about saw an opening. Chris Blakey went to half to fend it, realised he was too late in looking at it, and Jack Smith lunges up the inside. Chris Blakey's going to have the inside for the penultimate corner, but I think the damage is going to be done because Jack Smith will have track position going into the final corner. He should have this easily done and dusted. It's whether or not Oliver Gibson and Ben Smith can get through. Didn't actually see how Ben Smith fell down. I don't know if we missed something or whether I just wasn't concentrating at the time. But Ben Smith down into 5th, which is the reason why Jack Smith is up and fending a Chris Blakey, who's actually defending very, very well in the last couple of corners. He's going to lose out, though, here. Surely he's going to try and carry momentum. And to be fair, he may well have done. He's off the circuit. His wheels were just on there, unlike potentially his qualifying lap. It's just about obeyed track limits. And going out to T2, you may be right. Chris Blakey may be a cork in the bottle, but he's certainly somebody's trying to smash the bottle by hitting into each other. Jack Smith gets forced wide. My apology. As Oliver Gibson goes through with Chris Blakey still in 2nd place. I'm going to have to take a drink.
I'll mute you while you're doing that, Jack, if you don't mind. So I'll try and take over while we hear. I can hear Jack coughing away in the background. You guys can't. So yeah, Oliver up into 3rd place. Chris is defending extremely well at the moment. So he's making that car wide. A little bit of contact there. Obviously, we may look at that on Monday night. But so far, it's pretty clean, and I believe Jack is back.
Yeah, I do apologise. Normally when we have a co-commentator like Andy, I don't like to leave Rich in the lurch, but normally when I have somebody like Andy or Richie John Neal, you can just mute your mic and start coughing. And, but I do feel a bit bad. I'm sorry about that, Rich, but well taken over, because you gave us all the information we desperately needed there, to be fair. And it's the fact that Joel Lask really is pulling away significantly due to this battle. Nearly 3 seconds. Now. Yeah, it's growing substantially, and in fact, I'm really interested to see. As they went over the last time they went over the line, it was 0.3 of a second. In fact, no, it was a full second actually difference last lap. But obviously, there's still been fighting, there's been contact, and there's been everything else under the sun, which will have allowed Joel Lask to just pull a little bit further on. Thomas Potter's dropped down to 11th place. So something he may have tried moving on Andy Carroll clearly didn't work for him, because he's down 11th and a little bit in no man's land. Don't know whether that was something to do with the fight with Andy Carroll, or whether it was just something to do with the fact that maybe he just overdrove the car and went off the circuit, which is a little bit of the trait that we do see from Thomas Bosser at the moment. We do look forward to seeing him clean up the consistency a little bit. On the previous lap, what was the lap times? Joel Lask with a 1 minute 54.169. Fast, to be honest, that is fast. I know he will have used the hybrid, so you do have to take it with a slight pinch of salt, but it's still fast if you compare it to Chris Blakey, who's 7/10 of a second slower. Jack Smith was purple in Sector 4, actually. Chris Blakey's gone green Sector 1, so Chris managing to finally, now he's sort of relieved some of the pressure off his back, he can actually look forward, stop driving in his mirrors, and maybe, just maybe, he'll be able to get some kind of rhythm in his car and fight off or fend off Oliver Gibson and Jack Smith, which is a bit of a never-ending barrage of speed, to be honest, especially as they are very, very strong in the championship, with Oliver Gibson in second place, only 5 points back from Ben Smith, and then Jack Smith third place in the championship, and I'm pretty sure there was only about 10 points. Yeah, in fact, exactly 10 points. Wow, I'm better with this job than I thought. Back from Oliver Gibson. Craig Curtis is fourth place in the championship. Where is Craig ended up? He's in 7th place in the end, just behind Josh Martin, actually. Here after that earlier heavy foot moment contact. Not quite sure what happened to Craig Curtis, but what we do know is that he's operating behind Josh Martin, who's ending this season really rather strong. He's in 5th in the championship, only 1 point behind Craig Curtis. So actually,
two more hybrid than everybody in front of him.
Is that Josh Martin?
Yeah.
He's good at saving that, isn't he?
Yeah, and Joel's got one more than everybody behind him, down to Josh.
Yeah, so that's what happens if you don't have to fight anybody, I imagine, for Joel Lask. But yeah, Josh Martin does seem to have a bit of a knack of saving the hybrids. Craig Curtis has actually got 7. I can see that distinctly on my screen, even though it does go a bit pixelated. So I can't see really any of the individual numbers apart from the number 7, weirdly. And whether or not they've got double digits, which is a bit annoying, but luckily Rich is here and happy.
I'm here to help.
Exactly. Joel Lask, though, bang on 3 seconds quicker, or, well, no, he's not 3 seconds quicker, he's 3 seconds the gap to Chris Blakey. He's somewhat disappearing, doesn't need to worry about anything, and has the extra hybrids to his name to fend off any potential positions if he actually does make some kind of mistake. He'll be very happy, I'm sure. Chris Blakey, we may well get a chance to actually get his shout-outs from him, because we ended up having to leave his pole position interview. I screwed up the timing slightly, spent a little bit too long on Jack Smith, so I do apologise to Chris Blakey. Oliver Gibson, I'll be very interested to hear from as well, because obviously we've heard Jack Smith's tale of team orders and whether or not people let him go or not, and I know for a fact that Oliver Gibson hasn't fought Jack in the past because of potential championship run-ins for Jack, where Oliver hasn't really been involved with them. That is no longer the case. Gibson has found a lot of pace over the course of the last couple of championships, and it's something that I'm entirely here for, because it's another strong competitor to join us right at the front end. It's someone who's not just guaranteed because of setups or anything like that. It's actual the progress we can see at VRRC of Oliver Gibson is something that we're really sort of proud of him for, to be honest, because as I said at one point, it did look like the younger brother syndrome of most motorsport families, myself included, and the fact that they're not quite as quick, but it's nice to see that he's improved. Although Jack Smith may well get the job done going into turn 1 here, and into 3rd place. The hybrid, the slipstream, don't count Oliver Gibson out of getting that place back sooner rather than later. I'm sure Chris Blakey would be absolutely loving it, though, because he's looking in his rearview mirrors and he's seen 2 championship protagonists fight it out and slow each other down. All he needs now is Ben Smith to join the party, and all of a sudden this will be a bit of a frantic and fraught situation for all 3 involved. In fact, the top 3 of the championship all at a line basically coming up here, as Chris Blakey was about 0.8 of a second faster on that lap than the rest. In fact, actually no, on the last lap Chris Blakey was slower than Jack Smith by 0.1 of a second. He just so happens to have an 0.8 gap, which is a bit of a strange one. I don't know how he managed that, to be honest, but must have been due to fighting, or that Oliver Gibson was holding them up. Will we see a bit of a pullback, a slingshot effect? to wait and see. Josh Martin in 6th place has green sector 1 with Ben Smith green sector 2. Nobody else really is improving on this particular lap, but we are seeing that drivers can still find a little bit of momentum in the sectors that we won't see the hybrid being used, which is quite nice. The drivers are still getting the most out of the car, the most out of the circuit, and learning to be a little bit faster. It bodes well for race number 2, that's for sure. So what we're waiting to see here, well, Joel Lask is waiting to see the checkered flag. 7 minutes and 40 odd seconds to go before we see that checkered flag. The sort of main action, the main talking points are on your screen in front of you. Further back, I mentioned Josh Martin, Craig Curtis. That could sway Josh Martin's favour to crack inside the top 5 in the in fact, no, maybe he's already in the top 5. It's to stay inside the top 5 and go into the top 4. Scott Bugner, who's not here this evening, is not going to make any kind of moves further forward, but somebody who is going to try and make a move is Craig Curtis. Now, how much do you want to miss a braking zone? Well, Craig Curtis wants to miss it by an awful lot, and Josh Martin wants to put his foot down rather heavily as well. I mentioned about seeing the slightly better standard of racing further forward. Well, this is a very entertaining form of racing, shall we say, as Josh Martin does what Craig Curtis basically did a corner ago, completely outbrake himself and allow Andy Carroll to join in the mix, launching all over the curb and touching the back end of Craig Curtis. Just Josh Martin, he's going to have to really let him go, but the problem is for Josh, if he lets him go, is that Thomas? No, it's Adam Lyall, isn't it, on the outside? Do not go 3 wide through there. Someone's going to get hurt. Josh Martin holds on to the position, but I think he may well be thinking in the back of his mind, I really need to let Craig Curtis back through here at some point. The problem is, Craig Curtis is now behind Andy Carroll and fighting with Adam Lyall. So Josh Martin could try and give 1 position back, but actually end up losing 3. Maybe he thinks it's just safer to take it to the stewards and accept maybe a formal protest from Craig Curtis. But the fact that they are still in the fight means that he might well get away with it. I'm not a steward. I'm not going to put any ideas in anybody's head. But Josh Martin certainly was looking a little bit too close for comfort when he came out of that 3rd corner, that's for sure. Still entertaining, though. I mean, Andy Carroll gives a little bit back. Craig Curtis bumps up his inside. Josh Martin's all kind of squirrely going through the final couple of corners. Andy Carroll bashes him again. Not entirely sure where this beef came from, but it did look like neither of them wanted to slow down or take the corner particularly well. Andy Carroll's got into the lead of this little battle as Josh Martin now tries to find his way through. Adam Lyall looks like he might get a hold.
Adam!
On Craig Curtis, but he doesn't, because he gets a little bit too happy with the power button and ends up spinning into the wall. So that means that 4 become 3. And Josh Martin looks like he may well lunge into the 1st corner. Has he learned from Craig Curtis's mistake?
Oh.
A little bit, not really. He still outbroke himself. Nowhere near as bad as Craig Curtis. And Andy Carroll actually did that really rather well. It's been a little bit scrappy. It's been a little bit poor, to be honest, over the last lap from these drivers. But that one from Andy Carroll, the lovely little cutback, controlled, no wheel spin on the rear end, nice and sharp on the brakes, was actually very impressive indeed. Right, Ben Smith chasing down Oliver Gibson is the closer battle within the top 5. Ben Smith, who we sort of haven't seen too much of since the opening couple of corners, really, since he got into that 5th place. He hasn't really managed to push on, and considering how close all these guys are in terms of lap time and qualifying, I suppose it's not entirely surprising to sort of see that nobody can really properly catch up, overtake and pull away. I think even the fact that Joel Lask, he'll probably be the first to admit that he's got a little bit lucky with the fact that he had a decent start and then everybody else decided to fall over behind them. Craig Curtis, obviously, once he lost that race lead after a blistering start, to be honest. Joel Lask ended up getting a really good start into 2nd place. Ended up taking the race lead and hasn't looked back. 4 minutes to go in this race. It's been hugely entertaining. I've absolutely no idea, and to be honest, I'm quite scared to see what happens in race number 2 because we've got so many people so close together. I imagine we're going to have a bit of a wall of people going further forward, and it's all about track position because, as I said, it's so difficult to not only catch the driver in front of you, but then to stick the overtake as well because so many people are just as quick as you. So this could be a little bit a little bit fraught and frantic as
So
we go into the second race.
I think we've got 2 laps after this one, so Jack's got his work cut out, but he's gaining. He's there. Looking at the hybrids, Joel's still on 5, and then the next 5, 6 drivers have got 4. Craig Curtis on 2, Josh Martin on 5. Josh Martin's got 5 hybrids.
He has got 5 hybrids, but he's in 9th place now as he dropped behind Adam Lyall, potentially, and Craig Curtis and Andy Carroll. No idea what happened to Josh Martin, but that is a big mistake somewhere. 5 hybrids, well, he's just used one of them in the slightly odd, peculiar place on the circuit. That's not going through turn 1. I think it was actually going into turn 2 he used that. He did get free of Adam Lyall, but he's got a massive chunk to find before he catches up to Craig Curtis. Nearly 10 seconds or so. 11 seconds, actually, sorry, as my screen unpixelates. That's a huge amount for Josh Martin to lose, and he's not going to catch that one up with the amount of hybrids that he's got remaining. Anyway, Jack Smith, did you mention that I think they had 4 hybrids left? The top these lot. Yeah,
they're all on 4, but Joel's got 5, and then 7th place Craig's on 2 with Josh on 4.
Yeah. So this 4. I keep wanting to say the top 4. If this was the fight for the race lead, we'd be getting very excited. But I think everybody could agree that Joel Lask has driven away with this, and with 1 extra hybrid, he shouldn't really be losing it either. But you never know. He could probably finish with 3 hybrids and not even feel the pain of them, to be honest. He is back on it for the start-finish straight. And to be honest, if that's the only place he uses them, he will end up finishing with 3, I think, because we're going on to the penultimate lap. Yeah, penultimate lap. Yes, this will be the penultimate lap. Yeah, because I think Joel Lask went over with about 2 minutes to go. And we see that Chris Blakey's going defensive. Is this going to be the beginning of the end for Chris Blakey? He's held on to 2nd place rather robustly, and to be fair, I think fairly well as he forces Jack Smith off the circuit. No matter what comes of this race, Jack Smith, Oliver Gibson are going to know they've been in for a pretty hard 25 minutes, and Chris Blakey will be sweating from his hair follicles down to his toe follicles. To be honest, he'll be very, very much needing a shower because he's been driving very well, but after losing the 1st place, he'll be slightly disappointed that he couldn't do this for the actual lead. Because Joel Lask, I don't think, has a massive amount of pace compared to the rest of them. He's just seemed to have got himself into a really good position, and he's starting to use the hybrids a little bit more as the drivers behind him start to fall over each other. It's going to be nearly 5 seconds the margin as they get towards the checkered flag, or at least the last lap he might actually achieve 5-second margin before we even get there. Jack Smith is pretty much counting the positions where he can do this overtake now onto going on to potentially the final lap. And they're sort of running out, to be honest. This sector 3, you're not going to find an overtaking position. Going into sector 4, which is coming into this complex here, there's an opportunity, maybe, but you really have to hope that the driver in front has really screwed up sector 3. And to be honest, you're probably better off trying to conserve yourself to get down to turn 1 better. But of course, once the checkered flag drops, you don't need to go into turn 1.
It's going to be close for another lap.
It is going to be close. If I was Joel Lask, I'd actually come off the throttle.
Yeah.
And see
no,
the
he's gone
flag.
through.
But he hasn't. He's gone through. And to be fair, he had about 7 seconds left to go. And Chris Blakey is only about 5 seconds off. So, he shouldn't have done it. Oliver Gibson looks like he's under attack here, though, as Ben Smith goes on the outside, going into turn 1. Ben Smith is the closer of the fighters. He's going to try and carry a lot of momentum around the corner here. Oliver Gibson, who was on the hybrid, they've all got a similar amount of hybrids, but Ben Smith actually conserved his to use it into turn 3. That could be a stroke of genius as he potentially takes 4th place away from Oliver Gibson. More points dropped by Gibson on Ben Smith. The championship heating up. Gibson getting it all too squirrely onto the entry of turn 3 means he's probably just about screwed up his chances of trying to take that position back. We could just have seen a genius move there by Ben Smith, using the slipstream almost as a fake hybrid to force Gibson onto the hybrid going into turn 1. And then he had the opportunity to use the hybrid going into turn number 2, lunging himself and then getting that position. Really nicely done. Jack Smith has 2 left. Chris Blakey has 2 left as well, though. So it's going to be a bit of a stalemate between these drivers. Ben Smith has 1. Oliver Gibson has ran out. So Oliver Gibson is pretty much out of this battle for 2nd place. the likes of Chris Blakey and Jack Smith, though, whether you have 2, 3, 5, or only 1, the likelihood is they're only going to use
on
1.
hybrid.
No, here comes Jack Smith. He wants that lunge into the final sector. I don't think he's going to get it. Chris Blakey goes defensive. Joel Lask is, for some reason, using 1 as well. Chris Blakey goes defensive. Jack Smith on the outside, but he wasn't using track limits. He may well have the inside for the penultimate corner. Jack Smith could get himself 1 step higher on the podium, and he's got the position done and dusted. Joel Lask is going to win this race. We'll see him over the line. Maybe not. Maybe we will. There he is. Joel Lask wins. Fantastic. Congratulations to him. Driven superbly. Jack Smith is in 2nd place. Chris Blakey on the hybrid is going to take 3rd, just ahead of Ben Smith and Oliver Gibson in 5th place. Andy Carroll comes home in 6th. Craig Curtis in 7th. And Josh Martin, a good 13 seconds behind in the end, will just pit Adam Lyall and Thomas Potter, who's a little bit further back into 8th position. Wow, what a finish. Joel Lask absolutely nailing that race. No problems, no qualms about that one. Jack Smith with a really fantastic last lap, as well as Ben Smith as well, who got ahead of Chris Blakey and Oliver Gibson respectively. Full of action, full of drama. Race 2 is not going to disappoint. We'll be back with interviews after this break. Well, they had to make me lose my voice right at the end there. I thought I was going to save it for race number 2, but no, they made it all the more exciting. And I can tell you that we do have 3 very happy drivers in the interview box. And Chris Blakey, we're going to start with you. Ended up 3rd place for you, but my goodness, you must be sweating from head to toe.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough. That's the first time I've kind of raced like heads up with those chaps, and yeah, that was pure defense from that one pretty much. I thought I might be able to keep Joel and back them up into the guys and just let them fight and gain a tiny bit of advantage, but was not to be. And then a slight mistake on the last lap cost me seconds. So yeah, live and learn, and that was a lot of learning.
I was going to say, there was did you at any point have a lap where you actually took the racing line? Because it looked like you were going to you had to move over slightly in pretty much every single lap and think about defending at some point. Was it a constant? Was it more concentration than physical exertion that you were putting through there?
Yeah, it was just trying to hit my markers. I took slightly different lines into some of the corners of Jack and all that, definitely. It was just trying to make myself consistent, keep the gap consistent. One point I thought I was catching Joel at one point, making a little bit of headway, but then mistakes of my own making just put me back a bit, and then back into the clutches again, and then it's just, yeah, good fun though. Really good fun. Just need a nap now.
You got to do race 2, which, I mean, the problem with where you were, well, maybe not actually, because you'll have seen everybody else try it. You probably didn't see or learn where the overtaking maneuvers were. A man Hungaroring, it doesn't look like there's an awful lot. I mean, we saw Ben Smith and Oliver Gibson, a really interesting move, using the slipstream to fake the hybrid into turn 1, forcing Gibson to use his last hybrid, and then he hybrided it into turn number 2. Is that the sort of inventive and creative strategies you're going to have to pull out in race 2?
It's going to have to be, because I had one hybrid left, and I should have used it when I realised I'd made that mistake, just to put a little bit of a gap. But then that probably would have then I probably would have cocked up my braking into one of the corners and cost even more. But you can do it. Like I said, Jack successfully went round the side of me, went round the outside of me in a cracking move in the last few corners. Excellent move, door to door. So it's doable. It's just close.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it was very entertaining from our perspective. This time I can ask you now because we have a bit more time. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just my beautiful girlfriend, the race manager, Bex, if she's watching, which she wasn't last week, so I'll expect her probably not to be watching this week. But yeah, her and the rest of the BMW CCR guys who are either watching or competing today.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Chris. Congratulations on P3, and we'll potentially have a chat with you later on.
Cheers, guys.
Right, it's back to Jack Smith, and it's another second place interview for you, Jack, in terms of the race, though, this time. That you look like you had the most entertaining race of any of those top 5 drivers, to be honest. You were fighting with Oliver, you were fighting with Ben Smith, you were fighting with Chris Blakey and everybody else, and Joel Lask as well. I mean, start us off with what happened off the line.
Yeah, I had a bit of wheel spin and it just got eaten up. Really, that was what happened. I got a little bit too throttle happy when I saw the lights go out. So yeah, lots of wheel spin, and then I just saw my helicourser just fill up with like cars behind me. I was like, here we go. And then Joel sent one down the outside with a great move into the lead. That was the move that won him it, I think, because you really have to make the moves at the start of this race because it's proper hard to find any way to get past, because everyone sort of uses the push to pass in the same place, like down the main straight, and you only have 15, so you got to sort of juggle it every lap, so it's a bit tricky. But yeah, I made it work last race just in the nick of time. I think Chris made a mistake which made me able to get onto the back of him, but yeah, it was a great race, great bit of racing from Chris as well. There's a few little nudges, but I think that's just door-to-door stuff. It really not too much in it really, so it was yeah, it was very good. Really enjoyed it.
You said about the fact that everybody uses the hybrid in pretty much the same place. We did only see 1 or 2 opportunities. I think, in fact, you were one of them, to be fair, actually, where you ended up overtaking Chris. But does that mean it sort of negates it all, and it almost feels like everybody doesn't have a hybrid, if that makes sense?
When it's there's not long enough straights for the hybrid to be useful, unless, like, of course, when like Chris made that mistake and I managed to get past him with the hybrid. If he hadn't have made that mistake, I wouldn't have been anywhere near alongside him, so he would have just been able to shove me off the track, and I would have been alright. I would have been like, alright, fair enough. But yeah, it's a little bit tricky. The main straight, everyone uses it, so it's sort of, that's a given. There's a few areas where you can use it, but you're just risking like running out of hybrids at the end of the race. So you're thinking about this all the time when you're driving as well. It's proper taxing on your brain. But yeah, and you got to think about how defending from Ollie and Ben, and you then got Chris trying to overtake him at the same time. It's a lot. So yeah, proper head down, sort of get on with it type thing during the race. So yeah.
Well, it's been very entertaining for us to watch, Jack, I have to say. Big congratulations. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to that maybe you didn't before, or maybe you just like to repeat it in case I didn't hear before, or whatever?
Yeah, so everyone from race 1. I just don't want to go through that big list here again. We'll be in for another 4 minutes. And my girlfriend's watching, and Dave, who let me have a go in his real life car. That was a massive, mega experience. So, and I got that drive through here. So yeah, thank you to Dave, and thanks for watching.
Well, what did he let you drive?
It was an M3 Evo, proper track spec thing. It was my first ever time on a track, and it was at Donny, and yeah, it was proper good.
Oh, you chose
a
banger of
yeah,
a circuit.
it was really cool.
You don't get much better than that. You're probably only going to go downhill, to be honest. But don't go to Croft, whatever you do.
I already have.
Oh dear. Yeah, congratulations on the second place, and we'll potentially speak to you a bit later.
Cool. Cheers, Jack.
Right, Joel Lask, the final driver to speak to. But that's really the position you want, isn't it, Joel? Because that means you've ended up with a race win. A big congratulations, but to be honest, you had the most boring race.
I did, to be fair, but I'm happy for that. I'm not upset about it. I knew I had the pace on Blakey, and I had a feeling that he was potentially trying to back me up a little bit into Jack. So it was like, I've got to make a move somewhere around here. It's incredibly hard to do so. And then he got a little bit squirrely in the last couple of corners and managed to send it around the outside and just nip up the inside into the U bend. So yeah, that was it from there, and then from that point on, it was just lap after lap, just keeping the 53s just to make sure that they were distanced enough from me. But yeah, it was a good race.
Your concentration never starts to sort of drift at any point during that, because 25 minutes, just 23 minutes, let's say, just to do lap after lap after lap it's quite a lot. Or are you sort of so used to the sim, and have you done enough practice on this track and everything that you can sort of do it without really thinking?
To be honest, I started practice today. About 5 o'clock was my first practice on this track. The only time I lost concentration was the last lap, actually, coming into the first corner. I wasn't paying attention. I was going for fastest lap, and I got to the 50-meter braking board and thought, hang on a minute, I'm definitely not making this corner. Lost about a second and a half there, but apart from that, it was plain sailing. It was, to be honest, I think I got lucky because Jack and Chris were battling so much, but most of the race was just management and just making sure that it's lapping quicker than them. So yeah, a bit of a boring one, but yeah, it was nice to get the points on.
Well, you got about a minute before we have to really let you go into a bit of a rush, to be honest. But I want to get you a view on the hybrids and the other sort of, I suppose, gimmicks. They're not gimmicks, that's a bit harsh, isn't it, that we've been using in VRRC, but the different tyre compounds, the hybrids that we've been using, all those sort of little extra things to make it interesting and everything. What's been your favourite? Do you like the hybrids? Do you want to see a different tyre compound maybe, or something like that for the future championships or anything like that? Do you like
I enjoy the hybrid, don't get me wrong. Strategy side of it is pretty difficult. I mean, on this track, you really only going to use it on the main straight. The rest of the track is too twisty and bendy to really utilize it as much as you can. But I mean, it makes things exciting. I mean, it adds another layer of strategy to it, and making sure that you're keeping an eye on what other people are using and things like that. But I mean, different tyre compounds would be nice.
That was a very political correct answer from Joel. I know his real thoughts on it, which aren't those.
Well, he's clearly media trained. You've clearly whipped him into shape, Rich, over all
Well
these
done,
years. Right, Joel, we do have to let you go. There's 45 seconds or so to go. So well done on the race win, and we'll speak to you later, potentially.
Nice one, thank you.
So I've just finished my second bag of squashes, so I'm on a sugar high, and I'm ready for race 2.
Oh, that's good. I realised you just dumped Joel into the voice, and I dumped him straight back into the live broadcast. There we go. Yeah, race 2 is coming up, and we've got about 30 seconds actually before we get going. Remember, reverse grid, which will see Paul Laramie take the pole position ahead of Lee Pearcey, who, as I said, in these race 2 reverse grids, is pretty much always stealing the spotlight. So can we see Lee Pearcey actually manage to get through the race without the drama that quite often comes with him, though, in the past couple of weeks? And then we got Olivia and Gillian as well in 3rd and 2nd, with Walton, Brad Smith in 6th, Thomas Potter in 7th. I'm sure he'll be a lot of people's favourite for a potential race win. There wasn't a lot of crashes, which means none of the front-running championship protagonists towards the front end. But with the engine notes rising, that can only mean one thing, ladies and gentlemen. We are racing here for the final time at the Hungaroring, and well, for VRRC and the BMW M135i Cup. And it's a good start by Lee Pearcey, overtaking Paul Laramie before they even get to the gantry. Going into the braking zone, they hit the brakes hard, and it is Lee Pearcey with the race lead. I thought Paul Laramie was going to go into the back of them, but no, Brad Smith goes into the back of him because he got contact from further back. That's Brad Smith turned the wrong way. Other drivers having a bit of a meltdown as well. But Brad Smith, Paul Laramie, after what looked like a fairly clean start from Laramie, he didn't deserve that turning around. And to be fair to Brad Smith, I think he got nudged into it as well. I didn't actually see who nudged who, but it was a bit of a scrap. As Thomas Potter, who, as I said, is potentially a few people's favourite to get a race win or at least a decent result here. He hasn't looked the fastest on circuit, but he needs that track position. As Adam Lyall, I think, in the background, just goes stage exit right. Not sure what happened to him. Craig Curtis, I just realised, is the driver in 2nd place.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how. No idea. He
picked his way through it.
He must have just picked a line, maybe on the outside of everybody else, and was able to just drive around all the carnage as everybody else made a car park on the inside of the circuit. So Craig Curtis, all of a sudden, he'll be sat there thinking, oh, I've got a race win. And he'll be thinking that even harder now, because Lee Pearcey must have got on the curb, got on the exit curb, put his foot down on cold tyres. Something made him spit outright. Maybe all 3, because that would be possible, to be honest, in that section of the circuit.
Excessive torque demand.
Excessive torque demand. He mucked it up. Craig Curtis, though, in the race lead, that means you've got to think, Rich, very quickly. I'll get your opinion on this. I was going to ask you what a potential, your favourite for a race win. It's got to be Craig Curtis now, isn't it?
Joel's in third.
I don't know how, but yes, he is. I missed that. I'm missing a lot of people at the moment. Yeah, Craig using the hybrid. Thomas Potter's not using the hybrid. Joel Lask isn't either, though. Andy Carroll is, but they're not going to be any kind of concern. Look at that. Joel Lask going for the move on Thomas Potter, saving the hybrid as well, which means he's going to have one extra. He's already banked one, and everybody else sort of like thought about needing another one. Thomas Potter didn't use one.
No.
Craig Curtis in the race lead has almost shown his hand, but he's got a good run through this corner too. Yeah, I'm looking for Thomas Potter to see whether he's going to get any kind of lunge, but actually I don't think he was going to, really, unfortunately for Potter. And as I said, he hasn't really had the overall pace in terms of qualifying laps or race pace. In race one, he was in a decent position, but it didn't look like he was actually really that much faster than anybody else around him. So I don't know if he'll be able to keep up with these front two for very long. I suppose it depends on whether they start falling over each other. But Joel Lask we could end up seeing and speaking to again after this race too, which would be a pretty clean sweep for him. And it would be hard to look away from him for driver of the round as well if that is the case. I'm just having a look and see whether we've actually given him driver of the round.
Don't think we have.
Before, we haven't in this championship actually, and his best two evenings were evening 1 and evening 5, which last week he had 0 points. I don't think he turned up for it. So off the top of my head, I actually can't remember what was first and what was fifth. But he's had a couple of decent evenings, but apart from that, he's been well below par. 4 points is at round 2, 28 at round 3,
Craig
and
into the
we've
pits.
got a Craig Curtis drive-through penalty. Is that going to be a jump start? Rich, it's early enough to potentially be a jump start,
Yeah,
isn't it?
must be, yeah.
Yeah, so the game informing Craig that he got a little bit too happy on the pedal before the lights went fully out, which has inherited Joel Lasker race lead. Are we going to see a replica of race number 1? Are we going to see Thomas Potter fight for it? Is Josh Martin going to get his get a wiggle on and finally break through and actually start getting podium positions again? Because his qualifying was quick, Josh Martin. In his race, in fact, actually, I may well have seen Dave in the YouTube chat saying that he clipped the inside of the final corner and lost it. I'm going to go ahead and guess that was Josh Martin because he lost like 10 seconds. Yeah, I'm going to guess that. In fact, there's been a lot of interaction in the YouTube chat. Josh Martin being one of them. I'm guessing that was in between race 1 and 2, because if it wasn't, then I'd be impressed, to be honest. Yeah, quite a few people actually getting involved in there. Eric Axelson in the chat. We need to talk about Josh. Eric, when don't we, to be honest? Yeah, he's a pit watch, says he. We also see Catherine Potter and a few other people giving big support to Thomas Potter, as per usual. Elaine Gibson says, well done, Jack and Ollie. Lovely to see so much interaction. And there is Jack and Ollie, actually. Ollie in the lead of that particular battle. 5th place that we saw, actually, a little earlier on. They were fighting for 4th, actually. 4th and 5th, weren't they? Not 5th and 6th, but still in a similar sort of area in race number 1. And to be honest, just good that they didn't end up becoming a cropper for that contact in turn number 1. Speaking of people that we potentially would have expected to see slightly better of, Craig Curtis has ended up coming out of his drive-through penalty and coming back in 11th place. Chris Blakey in 9th hasn't been as clean-cut for him, and it hasn't really been as clean-cut for Ben Smith either. He is only in 7th place, which isn't bad. He's quite a bit further back off the fight for Oliver Gibson and Jack Smith. So, yeah, there's some drivers that really didn't progress as well. It's considering Joel Lask started pretty much dead last and is in the race lead. It's, yeah, as I said, sometimes it's better to start further back and analyse what's going on in the first corner, wait for them all to hit each other, and then find a line that you can just drive around nicely around the outside and probably gain 10 places without even trying, which is potentially what Joel Lask ended up doing. And to be fair, Craig Curtis, if he didn't end up jumping the gun. So the closest battle we've got on circuit is this battle that is on the screen, actually, with Oliver Gibson and Jack Smith. How much they're going to fight each other, not entirely sure, but we do know they're 2nd and 3rd in the championship. Now, I can give you an updated championship order after race number 1, but remember you have to take this with a big pinch of salt because the drop rounds, the computer doesn't like it when we haven't finished the entire evening to calculate the drop rounds and everything like that. But at the moment it says Oliver Gibson top of the championship, which means, as I said, you have to take it with a massive pinch of salt. Ben Smith is now 5 points behind him according to that, and that's not going to be representative as we go into the end of this race, because of course Oliver Gibson ended up finishing behind Ben Smith, so the fact that he could have overtaken him in the championship is a bit counterintuitive. So we'll ignore that for the time being. We're going into Silverstone. I'm very much excited, and Rich, I'm going to bring you in another time here just to talk about going into Silverstone a little bit, because frankly we've had a lot of championships go into the final round, quite a lot here at VRRC, but I have to say I don't remember the last time we had one this close. Must have been for about a year or so.
Excuse me. I'm just trying to remember. I think it was the last touring car championship we did, which was down to like I think the top 3 drivers in the last round. So yeah,
into the last race actually.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we like to make them as close as we can to keep the excitement going, and it looks like this one's going to be another cracker.
Yeah, in fact, I'm just thinking about it. You're right with the touring cars, and it sort of sparked a little bit in me that I remembered actually it was always this close when we did touring cars and the Civics.
Yes.
Civics were always this close, and we haven't had a championship where we've got away from those 2 cars and it be as strong as this one in terms of the how even everybody is. So it's nice to see that people have leaned into this BMW.
Yeah, saying that, from memory, it's usually the front wheel drives that go down to the wire, and it's the rear wheel drives where people run away with it because they're better with the handling of the car. But this is bucking the trend.
Yeah, which is nice to see, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, I think the people that have worked on the car, which I'm sure is you, and I know you trust a few other people to work on the car to get it sort of up to scratch, have really worked wonders in the fact that it's very accessible rear-wheel drive car. Because if we have tried it before, haven't we, where we've chucked people into single-seaters and stuff like that, and it's just a mess.
Yeah, Eric did a really good job on it. Andy Carroll's helped out a lot as well, and obviously I put in a fair few hours on the car myself, trying to get the coding right to get it to handle and drive well.
Yeah, and as I said, so nobody has yet complained about the car, which is different to when we do multi-series, like the touring cars or something like that. We always end up with 1 or 2 people saying, "Oh, well, this car doesn't like this track," and they say it about all 8 rounds. But it does seem to be that the BMW does seem to be universally liked, as is the Cupra. Which one last question before we get back to this race, Rich. I mean, the Cupra is the 24 model, isn't it? Not the ever popular 22, but it does seem to have picked up popularity.
Yeah, it's the 2024 model. The version we've got at the moment is a beta version. So we, like I said, we did a test race on Monday this week. I think we had about 15 drivers in it at Road America, and everybody was screaming how good the car was, and that's just the beta version. So we've got a few more improvements to make on it, but we're really pleased with the car. From Trained Monkey Modding is where the car was from. So thank you to those guys for such an excellent car, looking forward to it.
Yeah, if you can train monkeys to design a car, you've got to wonder why you can't train drivers to drive as well. But I'm sure it'll be very entertaining.
Or interpret the rules in the right way either.
Yeah, that's true. Thomas Potter, going back to this race, I genuinely wasn't expecting this, I'll be honest. Thomas Potter has found pace in this race number 2. I was sort of procrastinating, talking about other things, waiting for Joel Lask just to pull away, because I thought, maybe Thomas is just using a few hybrids, or just sort of living in a bit of a bubble at the moment with how quick he seems to be going. But apart from that chicane, he seems to be very strong here in race number 2. And Rich, I'm going to ask you to run the hybrids down, because I don't think there's too much difference.
Top 3 are on 11, then the next 2 are on 10. Jack Smith in 6th is on 11, with Ben on 10, Chris Blakey 10, Adam Lyall on 8, and Craig Curtis rounding out the top 10 on 8.
Yeah, and Catherine Potter actually in the YouTube chat reminding us all that, or pointing out that the Phoenix Sim Racing team is currently 1 and 2. Is Josh Martin still running? Yes, he is still running under Mean Green Racing Team. I think he is the only driver in Mean Green Racing Team.
Until the next championship, when we've got Eric back.
When we do have Eric returning as well. I'm very much hoping that we have Eric up to full speed. I don't know how much. Let's face it, he won't have lost that much pace, but it does take a little bit of time to get back used to racing and everything like that. And two, I'm very much hoping that Josh Martin carries on this kind of pace. Now, I know it's a completely different car, and you do get people coming to the front, but if it is that if that is the case, then that will be really exciting to see those two.
So Eric was in the practice race we had on Monday night, and I can confirm he has not lost any speed at all.
So excited, isn't it? Given the fact that this is so already so close, he'd have been right in the thick of this qualifying.
I was sat in second place, and I could see him coming up behind me in my mirrors, and I mean, I was pretty much on it. I qualified second, so I had a good pace, but I was sat in second place, and he was just flying up behind me. I literally just said, "Eric, go left, take the place." It's just there's no way. There was no way I was going to fight him. He was coming up at such a rate of knots.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you, to be honest. It would strike fear into the back of into my mind as well if I saw any of the drivers that are currently on the grid. Actually, I think the level has just risen so much. Yeah, I did fear we lost a couple of drivers over the last sort of championship or so, haven't we?
Yeah,
Sort of
gained a lot more.
Certain championships, but we've gained a lot more, and I do think that drivers. Yeah, we've kept some fast drivers, like the likes of Jack Smith and stuff like that. And I thought when we lost a few of the front runners from a couple of seasons ago, I thought, oh, here we go. It's just going to be a bit of a 1 or 2 horse race. And all of a sudden, everybody else has moved up an echelon and sort of filled the vacuum that maybe a few of the drivers have lost. So it's really good to see. And you know, I know we're probably not going to see the other drivers anytime soon, but it's almost like
we definitely won't.
No, I can imagine. But the likes of the Jordan Brennans of the world, who used to just come in and sort of dominate ridiculously quick, and there was a lot of other drivers, and Jack Smith used to race back then as well. He'll probably be able to remember a fair few, and you probably will be able to remember a fair few that just haven't unfortunately carried on with us for one reason or another. To bring them back, I think they'd struggle. I think names that we remember from years ago, sort of thing, I think would come back and actually see a stark improvement in drivers.
I tell you, there's one driver that wouldn't struggle.
Who's that?
Good old Dave.
Dave Marshall, yeah. No, stunning drivers, Dave Marshall. Struggling slightly in the Civic Cup, unfortunately, this year, but a really nice guy as well. He's always happy to do interviews with me. Andy Carroll is one of the drivers I was actually going to mention and praise actually the improvement that he's made. The fact that he's no longer this inconsistent driver who pops up every now and then with a podium. He is legitimately one of the faster drivers, but he does seem to be picked off here by the brothers of Gibson and Smith. Gibson went through first and Smith followed suit around the outside of turn number 4. Yeah. Now, I don't know how much track limits is in play there, but that was brave. I don't think you'd see people do it in real life because it's utterly terrifying. But it's really very impressive. And Andy Carroll, a little bit of a sitting duck there, unfortunately, but he is one of the drivers that
I will be manually reviewing the outside of C4 tomorrow morning. I've noticed a few drivers going wide there and not getting a cut, so they will expect to probably getting some sort of penalty from me after tomorrow.
Well, we'll wait and see if what that is, but I have to say it was a fairly exciting move. Anyway, here's Thomas Potter yet again latched onto the back of Joel Lask's car.
Pot's doing well.
Yeah, nobody wasting hybrids. And to be honest, if I was Potter, I'd be relatively happy here. What he doesn't want to do, and I know I'm constantly giving him advice for the commentary box where we can't hear it, but I'm trusting the fact that someone out there is listening to it. They can maybe take it afterwards, or he's going to watch it back. I just hope that he doesn't go for the overtake at any point now and waste a hybrid going into turn 4 or into turn 2 or into where we saw Jack Smith overtake Craig Curtis, Chris Blakey, because I want to see that on the last lap. That's the strategy of the hybrid users. Don't get carried away that he could get the track position now, because he's going to waste the hybrid. Joel Lask could end up just rinsing it through one more time before they get going. Jack Smith, big lunge on the inside of Oliver Gibson. Even I didn't see that one coming, to be honest, and we can see it from a bird's eye view. Gibson is going to be on the inside for turn number 3. Is he going to force his brother wide? No, I think he's been a little bit kind there, to be honest. And that may well cost him a position going into turn 4. Yeah, Jack Smith hunkering all over the curb. I think he was on the track there, to be fair. Yeah. So let him off that one just for the time being, as Oliver Gibson now has to deal with 4th place and seizes Jack Smith getting through once more. So it does look like we're going to see a slight gain in championship points after this evening in terms of going the way of Jack Smith. But it'll only be slight. Remember, he was 10 points behind. He'll probably have only gained about maybe 4 going into the final round. So could well still see Oliver Gibson in second place of the championship, but all it's doing is really tightening up the gap, and especially as these two have both finished ahead. In fact, no, they haven't finished ahead of Ben Smith because Oliver Gibson got overtaken by Ben Smith in the final lap of the last race. So what I'm saying is, if it does finish like this with Andy Carroll in 6th, Ben Smith in 7th, that, again, top 3 will be separated by less than 10 points in total, I imagine. That's sort of my quick maths off the top of my head.
Well done.
Instinctive maths that I'm going for, which normally is quite incorrect. Normally Andy is here with a spreadsheet who's working it all out, but
Yeah, come back, Andy.
yeah, I'm just not. Oh, let's face it, I'm just not that professional.
He likes his spreadsheets, though, doesn't he?
He loves a spreadsheet. Honestly, when we go to TCR or Civic Cup or anything, oh yeah, I'll send you the spreadsheet. He updates it like.
Oh, Joel's gone wide.
Ridiculous. Anyway, yes, Joel has gone wide, but he can carry quite a lot of momentum through that turn one, so it's sort of not worth getting worried about just yet. With 7 minutes to go, I think Potter again showing a little bit of good maturity here. He didn't get excited. He didn't cut the power down too early. We've seen, I think it was Adam Lyall, his teammate, ended up going around the final corner, saw an opportunity to really get involved with the fight ahead of them, put his foot down, and then ended up going stage exit right into the concrete barrier. Oh, a little bit of a squirrely moment there for Potter. It means he's going to ruin his run through here. He's going for late apex. It's a good way of rescuing a poor entry, to be fair, and he's going to go into the chicane. Yeah, nicely in touching distance, but it does seem the chicane, Rich, that Potter seems a little bit slow on. Everywhere else, I'm impressed by him.
Yeah, me too. And I think it was Max in the chat mentioned that Thomas has not had a chance to do much practice this week. So an even more impressive performance for him to hang on to the back of Joel.
Catherine Potter informing us that he does watch his races back. I would assume so. It's good homework. Well, it's more entertaining than homework as well. I'm sure the school probably don't agree that it's more important, but VRRC here do, and who are you going to listen to really? School or VRRC?
So I keep flicking back here because look, Jack's really reeling in Josh. I've got Jack on for a 3rd place here,
I wouldn't be surprised. But we do know that Josh is unpredictable in the best way.
He's got one more hybrid, Josh.
He has. He's very good at saving those hybrids, isn't he, Josh Martin? It's a bit of a tactic that he just seems to appear at the end of the race with maybe 1 or 2 just out of nowhere that no one else has. And you think, where on earth has he been saving them? But he clearly finds one around the back of the sofa or something like that, because he's able to hold on to this position for the time being, whilst also keeping that slight advantage. Now we need to stop seeing the mistakes that Josh Martin is susceptible to. Even the experienced racer he is now in real life and VRRC, it is the little mistakes and going wide and things like that, things like what we're seeing right now, Josh, that are the mistakes that he's going to cost him in the end of this race potentially, because he may well have been trying to take the racing line with the late apex and straightening up the exit, but it's not the way to hold off a position. And although he has, you offer the opportunity to Jack Smith too many times, he will crowbar a move out of you, and you don't have to really look very far to find that he's done that a number of times. Just look at Chris Blake, one small mistake, and all of a sudden Jack Smith's around the outside, and that's not alone. That's not counting the ones where he just sort of forces the inside route as well.
Can you believe there's only 4 minutes left?
No, I've been chatting away.
2 laps left.
I've been quite enjoying this race, to be honest. Joel Lask, I like the fact that he's been pushed. Thomas Potter has now dropped off a little bit more. He dropped off by about 6-7 tenths of a second, unfortunately. So we may not see a grandstand finish between those two. That's only if Joel doesn't make a mistake, though, to be fair. We may well see more of a grandstand finish here from the likes of Josh Martin. It'd be quite interesting to chat to Josh Martin because his race 1 seemed very eventful, but as Rich was saying, not got money on it because Jack Smith, you get the impression, Rich, he's biding his time somewhat.
You'd be a foolish person not to put money on Jack Smith.
You would be, wouldn't you? It's a bit scary for Josh Martin to be sat there.
It's kind of like seeing Eric coming up in your mirrors behind you.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, which you know all too well after Monday night.
Well, also had Jack coming up behind me at one point as well. But the funny thing was about the race on Monday, it was Road America and in the Cupra, and Jack had not raced it before in the Cupra, so we're still getting used to the braking points, etc. And he was still quick. He was still all over me. But yeah, great racer.
It's mad how people can just be naturally quick in whatever they jump in, and it's infuriating for us normal people as well.
Oh, that's why he does the coaching for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nice. So Josh Martin looks like he is hanging on a bit. As I said, it feels like Jack Smith is sort of biding his time.
They're both on 4 hybrid as well.
Sorry?
They're both on 4 hybrid.
Yeah, so as Josh Martin misses his apex, the problem for Jack Smith is that's not an overtaking opportunity now all of a sudden, as Thomas Potter has not got past Joel Lask. I know why he switched that. It did look like he got past on the left-hand side, but it's not the case. About half a second between those two still, which is touch and go. Probably not quite close enough for a grandstand finish, but the third place in the final podium is well up for grabs, and Josh Martin is going to be overtaken here by Jack Smith. He went around the outside of Chris Blakey. Race to go in this position. He looks to go around the inside this time of Josh Martin. Martin keeps his foot in, gets a little bit squirrely, misses his braking zone, misses the apex. It's somewhere roughly that postcode, Josh, if you want to try again next lap. Oliver Gibson does, though, take advantage of Smith's wide moment and that contact and slots himself up to 4th place. Is that the blessing in disguise that Josh Martin needs to hold on to this? Well, this is the penultimate lap. He's just now got an extremely quick DK Motorsport driver behind him. It just so happens it's the other one now. So will Jack Smith go for the lunge on Gibson? Will he leave Gibson to try and make the move through? Let's wait and see. With Ben Smith hunkered up behind, Jack Smith does get a better exit and they swap positions. That looked a little bit telegraphed to me as Smith goes for the dive. He's trying constantly to wait for Martin to miss that braking zone, see if he's going to leave that open space on the entry into turn number 2. And to be fair to Martin, I've sort of said that he's got mistakes in him. I've not been fully complimentary of him this race, to be fair, but to be fair to him, he has stopped doing that wide entry into turn 2 to get that exit, which has just restricted the opportunity by one more corner that Jack Smith is overtaking opportunities basically in a lap. So instead of 4 or 5 places that Smith could potentially go through, he's reduced it to maybe 2 or 3. And now Jack Smith has already tried one of them, which is coming up in a couple of corners' time. He didn't manage to get it done.
Problem
I don't imagine.
Josh is on 3 hybrid. Jack's only got 1 left.
Okay, so Josh, no matter what happens, in theory, should have the strongest fast at the end of the race. Joel Lask and Thomas Potter, I believe, are both on 1 as well.
We're going to get another lap, aren't we, by the looks of it?
We are going to get another lap here, which means Josh Martin, who's just used one of his hybrids going into that corner after being scared like nothing else, I imagine, by Jack Smith a lap ago. Jack Smith has used his hybrid. Jack Smith has used his final hybrid with a lap to go and didn't manage to get past Josh Martin, who used his hybrid to fend off Jack Smith going into that penultimate corner. Not penultimate corner, but that end of the complex, shall we say, the last complex. I wonder if Jack Smith thought this was the final lap of the race. Oliver Gibson goes through. Smith is going to be a sitting duck here to not only Oliver Gibson, but to Ben Smith as well. This could be a championship mistake here by Jack Smith, as Josh Martin now doesn't really have to fear from him for the time being, and Ben Smith uses the hybrid and tries to go around the outside of Jack Smith. This could be really close as Oliver Gibson tries to lunge on Martin. Smith runs really wide. Ben Smith looks to get the cutback. It's going to be Jack Smith's line. Who's going to use it? Is Ben Smith going to use it into the turn 3? No, because he couldn't. He wasn't allowed. He wasn't allowed to get on the hybrid because there's a cooldown period. So only out of the final corner or into that final complex could we see. No, sorry, Ben Smith has got through.
Yeah,
I completely missed that.
Yes, so did I. I was looking at the timing screen.
My apologies. I was too busy, flitting for the timing screen, looking at Josh Martin, Oliver Gibson. But Ben Smith has got through. I do apologise for missing it. I'm sure it was a great move. Thomas Potter has dropped off Joel Lask by the tune of 1.2 seconds. Still a very good result from Thomas Potter. To be honest, I didn't expect from him this evening. So very well done to him. Joel Lask, who is using his last bit of hybrid to fend off what is not an attack. Josh Martin, though, has got Oliver Gibson crawling all over the back of him. Oliver Gibson has used his final hybrid to try and go around the outside of Josh Martin, who didn't use his hybrid. He's going to use it out of the final corner, I imagine. It's a short run to the start-finish line, as then through the penultimate corner, Jack Smith goes up the inside of Ben Smith. And you can see in the background, Andy Carroll's interested. Josh Martin on the inside. So is Ben Smith. Which way is this going to go? Oliver Gibson around the outside. Joel Lask takes the race victory. Thomas Potter in second. Josh Martin comes out in third, just about, with Oliver Gibson in fourth. And Ben Smith holds on to fifth place ahead of Jack Smith, with Andy Carroll in seventh, Chris Blakey in eighth, Craig Curtis ninth, and Paul Laramie will round out the top 10, I imagine, ahead of Gillian Christian. Wow, oh wow, what a race. We're going to be speaking to Joel Lask for the third time this evening. We're going to be speaking to Thomas Potter and Josh Martin for the first time. And with that, we're going to go to our last advert break before we end up finishing off this evening. Once they claimed he was washed, but now he is back on the podium for the second week running. It's Josh Martin. Big congrats, Josh. Let's face it, that was hard work, but I imagine a big grin on your face.
That was really hard work, and I really didn't think I had the pace to hang on to that, but I think I seemed quite good at managing the hybrids. I think that saved my bacon in that one.
Yeah, I don't know how we were contemplating this during the race, to be honest. Did you find one around the back of the sofa or something? You always end up with one or two more than everybody else. Is that a conscious decision, or do you just not know where everybody else is using them?
I just try and not waste them. I think for me to use a hybrid, I pick like this one. I knew that if I used just one a lap, I'd have a handful spare at the end. So I kind of aim to do that at the start, and I only will use not one. Like two, say, in that lap if I really need to, but often I kind of just let the people around burn theirs, which sometimes has backfired on me in the past, because then sometimes you end up stuck behind people who are burning through a lot of hybrid and you're trying to save them. Sometimes you need to burn a few to clear certain cars, but yeah, and I think I save one on that the second lap we do, because we're not allowed to use them until lap 2, and a lot of people will get into the line and then jumping on one. And I didn't use one then, so I was, already one up before we've really even started.
Well, I mean, it did save you towards the end there a little bit, but the fact you had to, do you have to change your underwear? And now that you had that Jack Smith moment going into the final complex, because at one point I thought, no, he's had you here. You were on the outside of I think it was the third to last corner, and you managed to keep it pinned, squirreled the back end, and still came out in third. How on earth did that happen?
I've got quite used to driving these rear-wheel drive cars sideways everywhere, so I'm quite comfortable with the back end doing whatever it wants, as long as my front end's kind of faced in the direction I want to go. But yeah, no, I'm normally quite good actually at not looking in my mirrors, getting stuck in my mirrors. But yeah, I was quite, I had Andy behind me for the first half of the race, and I got quite comfortable with Andy behind. And I saw that obviously the DK BMWs getting closer and closer and closer, and then they got past Andy very, very fast. And I thought, like game on. And yeah, to be fair to Jack, he did have me. I think there was one lap I kind of, lost my rhythm completely. He had me rattled, being right on the back of me. But other than that lap, I was able to kind of look forward and not look back too much, which I think helps a lot in like those situations.
It helps massively. I don't want to end this on a sour note, so this won't be the final question. But what happened in race 1?
Too many track extensions. I've been struggling in practice actually with doing valid laps and not running wide, so I'd picked up a few silly little ones right at the start, and then when I was racing with Andy and Craig, there was just a little bit of rubbing between me and Andy, and I ran wide, and that was my final track cut, which my own fault for being on the final one before I got a drive through. But yeah, it is what it is, same for everybody, so can't complain too much.
Oh, okay, so we didn't know we had your drive-through put on, actually. We just thought you missed a span or something, actually, to be fair. But
that's what you'd expect, isn't it?
Yeah. But no, Josh, big congratulations on the 3rd place. You're coming in strong for the championship, and you look like, I'm going to give you a slight outside bet for a top 3 here. You're about 20 points behind for the top 3. Jack Smith, who's currently 3rd. You're now jumped up to 4th. Are you happy with 4th and 5th, or do you think you can actually try and claim that 3rd?
Yeah, well, as Eric always says, the master plan, you need a really bad first half of the season to keep your weight nice and low, and then you've got to start doing well at the end. I mean, it worked for me in the touring cars a year and a half ago, where I was flying towards the end of the championship and was able to go from 5th to 1st, I think, in the last round. So yeah, we'll see. I'm getting the last few rounds have been really good, and the last one was a really good round for me. So I'm getting a little bit closer to them each week. But Ben, Ollie, and Jack, they're just so fast every week on what seems every track, and they don't really make mistakes. So yeah, to gain any points on them, you're doing really well.
You are indeed. Well, Josh Martin, big congratulations on the podium. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Oh, it's got to be Dave in the YouTube chat, and
he's finally supporting you again.
Yeah, yeah, about time. That's he should be after I got him his first trophy on the last weekend when we were rallying, and obviously Eric as well. He'll be back for the next championship, so looking forward to having Eric back too.
Cracking. Well done, Josh, and you never know. Keep up the form. We'll be speaking to you next week.
Hopefully. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Right, that was Josh Martin. Next up is the Teapot man himself, Thomas Potter, as the cheers go up in the YouTube chat, I imagine. I'll be honest, Thomas, I didn't expect you to have that pace in race number 2, but you held on to Joel for 95% of that, and I have to say it was a very, very good race that you had there. Was there any point that you thought maybe you could have the 1st place?
To be honest, I knew I couldn't beat Joel. My pace wasn't too good at this track, so just sitting in my toe lap after lap, pulling away from Josh as much as I can then. But eventually got 3-second gap, and I thought I was going to go for a move on him, and I wanted to be safe and get the points for the championship.
Very mature thinking, that's for sure. What happened in race 1 then? Because at one point you were very close with people, and then you dropped off quite massively. With the pace that you showed in race number 2, we'd have expected you a little bit further forward. Does Hungaroring not really agree with you so much?
Nah, I don't really like this track at all, but race 1 just lost the back end on the exit of the last corner by hitting my hybrid a bit too early, so... But at least I got it back in race 2 and ended up with a podium.
Well done,
You did
Thomas.
indeed. What's the thinking going into the Cooper Cup then? We see you returning, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm returning for Cooper Cup. If I'm being honest, don't really like the car, but after a few practices now, I'm sure I'll be back on the pace again.
You're the only person that we've had that doesn't like it so far, Thomas. But is that just because you haven't really driven that many front-wheel drive cars before, do you think? Or because you did the minis, didn't you? But really, you've come on strong here for the BMWs, getting quicker and quicker and quicker. I'm sure you'll be able to convert that into the Lyall.
Yeah, hopefully. I think I'm just more of a rear wheel drive person because, well, everything I've driven in real life and on the sim mainly has been rear wheel drive. And I think the minis and Coopers are the only front wheel drive that I've done championships in or going to championships in. So yeah, I think just mainly rear wheel drive I like more.
Yeah, well, don't worry, we'll whip you into shape here at VRRC, and trust me, you'll be rapid in both, and that will put you in good stead for a career in motorsport as well, to be able to do both, because you never know what drives pop up in the future. Thomas Potter, big congratulations on the second place. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, huge thanks to GT Amiga for paying for my tickets to watch the American Festival of Speed at Brands Hatch, and as well as Mike Crack and Tasha from Aston Martin who are watching this race, and for Lego F1 car, which I'm going to be building tomorrow, hopefully, if I have enough time. As well as, I forgot the name now, Falcon Computers, for, well, buying me the PC and the monitor, which I'm using right now, otherwise I wouldn't actually be here without them. So, yeah, and Joe, obviously, for giving me tour the whole race, which definitely came in close.
Very well done. Love it. Thomas, little tip, if you want to keep your sponsors and everything like that, just put them on a little sheet of paper to the left-hand side of your screen, and then you'll never forget any of them. And but to be fair, you did a really good job there. Most drivers don't even remember to thank their dog or something. That's like they don't thank their team, but they thank their dog or something really weird. So well done, Thomas. And we'll probably be speaking to you next week if you keep up that pace.
Yeah, it's for him.
Well done, Thomas.
Thank you.
Right, and for the second time this evening, and our driver of the round, I can confirm as well. I always forget to give that out, so I'm going to give it right at the beginning of the interview. Joel Lask, big congratulations on yet another win. That one was slightly harder.
Yeah, just a little bit. That was a good race. I wasn't expecting to be up there so quickly. I think something happened T1. I'm not sure what, but yeah, was able to get through the carnage, which is different for me. I'm not gonna lie. Normally I'm part of the carnage, so yeah, it was nice to make my way through. And then from that point on, we had really good race pace, and sort of Tom followed me through, and we worked together on that one. But yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, from what Rich was saying, you're normally cause of the carnage, aren't you?
Whoa.
I'm kidding.
Whoa!
I'm not. I'm dobbing him in. I'm kidding. He didn't say that. But yeah, he says. But yeah, it was a case of just finding the right line, because all of a sudden, I mean, from dead last up to third, I genuinely, Rich pointed it out. I didn't. I'll be honest. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought the timing tower had gone wrong or something like that. I was putting potentially the teapot down as a race win. I was even saying that maybe, I think it was Craig Curtis who was in the race lead until he got that drive through. Yeah. But all of a sudden you pop up out of nowhere. I mean, you must have really been, luck been on your side tonight.
100%. I might get a lottery ticket for tonight, I think, because there's not many times that happens. But no, it was a great race. I think, yeah, the stars aligned on this one, and we made our way through. Fair play to Teapot. He was incredibly quick. At times I thought he was going to send me into multiple corners. We were going on throughout it thinking, you know what, let's just hold the pace. Let's push together, and Sonny had a lot more pace than me. So yeah, I mean, it was a great race, and it was good to get the points for Phoenix.
Yeah, you got an outside shot at a championship position in terms of the top 5, a prize is what I'm saying. You got about 17 points or so that you got to catch up to Craig Curtis. Craig didn't have the evening that he was hoping for here. Silverstone, you confident?
I mean, I do love Silverstone. I mean, it's one of my favourite tracks, but I'd ruled myself out of contention for the championship. So you never know.
I'm talking prizes here. To be fair, I'm not putting you at the top end.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, if the stars align again for the next round, which I doubt they will, then maybe we can do something about it. But yeah, I suppose tonight was just our night, and yeah, I managed to make it work. So yeah, nice and happy with that one.
Fantastic stuff, Joel. Big congratulations, and I'm going to ask you for the third time. Yeah, I'm giving you about an extra 10 seconds here to think of anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, just anyone under the sun that you can think of to give a shout out to.
No, big shout out to Phoenix, because I sold my rig and my setup, and Ad and Stu from Phoenix got together and provided me the equipment to make sure I keep racing throughout this championship and the next one. So a big shout out to them, because if not, I wouldn't be racing. And a big shout out to Teapot, because he's come into this league, and he's been pushed about a little bit, and he's been finding his feet, and fair play to him. He had a lot of pace in that last race, and yeah, I think he'll be doing well in future championships. So yeah, just keep on the fight.
I just want to point out as well. I'm happy that Stuart Phoenix sorted him out with a simulator, because I offered him to come and race here if he didn't have one. So I'm quite relieved that he's not here.
Yeah, it would have been awkward with Rich standing over your shoulders going, that was a track cut, that was a track cut, that was a track cut. But yeah, no, fantastic stuff. Joel, congratulations on the other race win. As I said, driver of the round as well. We could not give it to you after that race too, especially coming from last first in the space of half a lap, so or whatever it was. Great stuff. So we'll speak to you next week.
Nice one. Cheers, Jack.
Well done, mate.
Cheers.
Right, that was our top 3, and it was also all the racing we got here for you this evening. And for the first time in what feels like this entire championship, I actually will know fully fledged pretty much a lot about a circuit for the next week. It's a bit of a relief for me, to be honest. I'm not actually researching it halfway through the hot lap. So Silverstone is where we will finish this BMW M135i Cup, and powered by VRRC. It is very close in the championship. Ben Smith on 227. 5 points behind still, it's 5 points the gap, is Oliver Gibson, 222. And then you have to look 8 points to the rear of Jack Smith, who pulled 2 points in on his Josh Martin on 189, and Craig Curtis on 183. Joel Lask on 166. So there are drivers. The championship is well up for a fight between the top 3. Josh Martin, Craig Curtis can probably battle it out for 4th. Maybe look out and get a 3rd place. And Joel Lask, you never know, could really upset a few feathers and get into those top 5 as well. It's been a great evening's racing here at the Hungaroring. My name has been Jack Oliphant. I've been joined by Rich Hayden, who's been a cracking job actually, sort of not only doing the broadcast but chatting to me through that race too as well. So a big thank you to Rich. And everybody at home, whether you've liked, shared, subscribed, interacted at all, or sat there and silently judged us, it's been a pleasure being your host. We'll see you next week at Silverstone for the finale. See you later.